Welcome to a new part of the ISM Statistics 1 exercise set. This time with an exercise on boxplots and quantiles. Let's check out the exercise. Calculate based on the following tables the third quartile as well as the 29% and the 63% percentile each. Then we have two parts and we can see here directly this is on quantiles, rather percentiles of classified data sets. So how do we proceed with this? We start with part A with this table and start with the first part, with the third quartile. Third quartile or the 75% percentile. What are we going to do here? Well, we work similarly to calculating the mean. So we first need to find the quartile or the quantile class. So we need to find the class where the relative cumulated frequencies first become larger than here 75%. This clearly is the fourth class, the class from 200 to 500. So what we do now is we start with its lower bound, so 200 plus, as we are working with the 75% percentile, we have then on the upper part of the fraction 0.75 minus the cumulated relative frequency of the class before the quantile class. So here it's the class 100 to 200, which has a cumulated relative frequency of 0.6769. This is the one we subtract from the 75%. And then we divide all of this by the relative frequency of our quantile class. This fraction then is multiplied with the length of the quantile class, which we get if we subtract the lower bound from the upper bound. So here we get to 300 by calculating 500 minus 200. And well, if we put all of this into the calculator, we get as a result 318.7974. This is the first part. And the second part, that's the 29th percentile. Here we work similarly. First off, we select the quantile or percentile class. We have to check which class is the first, which whose cumulated relative frequency becomes larger than 29%. That's obviously the second class from 50 to 100. So we start here as well with the lower bound of 50 plus the 29% minus the cumulated relative frequency of the class before this. So here it's the first class which is before this. This has a relative cumulated frequency of 0.1154. And all of this is divided by the relative frequency of the percentile class. So here it's 20%. We multiply this then with the length of the class, of the percentile class, which here we get by calculating 100 minus 50. So if we put all of this together, we get as a result the 29th percentile as 93.65. Then we have the third part, the 63rd percentile. Here we work similarly. We see the first class where we get over 63%, that's the class from 100 to 200. So we have the lower bound 100 plus the 63% minus the cumulated relative frequency of the preceding class divided by the relative frequency of our percentile class, of the class 100 to 200, which here is 0.3615, and all of this is multiplied with the width or length of the percentile class. So here we have to calculate 200 minus 100, giving us the 100 we multiply to the fraction. Taken all together, we get a 63% percentile of 187.0263. This concludes then the first part, part A. In part B, we work comparatively. We take a look at our data table, and for the third quartile, we select the class where the relative accumulated frequency becomes larger than 75%. Obviously here, that's the third class, the class from 1200 to 2500. So we start with its lower bound, 2200, plus we have the third quartile, which is the 75th percentile. So we then start with 0.75 minus the relative accumulated frequency of the class beforehand. So here the 0.3529 divided by the relative frequency of the percentile class, which here is 0.4588. All this is multiplied with the width of the quantile class, which we get if here we calculate 2500 minus 1200, giving us the 1300 we noted here. All in all, taken together, this results into a third quartile of 2325.1744. And then for the next part, the 29th percentile, we start again by looking where do we get a accumulated value larger than 29%. That's the second class, the class from 800 to 1200. So we have a starting value of 800 plus the 29% minus the accumulated frequency of the class before, which here is the first class, having a relative accumulated frequency of 0.0882. And all of this is divided by the relative frequency of the percentile class, here 0.2647. And in the end, this is multiplied with the width of the percentile class. So here we have to calculate 1200 minus 800, giving us the 400 we have written down here. Then, well, taken all together, we get a 29% percentile of 1104.949. So this leaves us with only one part to go. This is the 63rd percentile. Here we can see, as with the third quartile, we are in the third class, the class from 1200 to 2500. This explains that here we have the same starting value of the lower bound of 1200, but on the fraction line we have the 63% minus, and well, here we have the same as the first one, the relative accumulated frequency of the class before being the 0.3529 divided by the relative frequency of the percentile class being the 0.4588. And well, also similarly, it's multiplied by 1300, resulting from the width of the class, which we get from 2500 minus 1200. Taken all together, we get as a result 1985.1569, which then is our 63rd percentile. Well, and this concludes part B and as well the whole exercise. So I hoped all of you enjoyed listening to this exercise and you took something away from this for you. And well, until next time, see you and goodbye.